So the webinar is now recording, and you should see in the bottom left-hand side the participants beginning to steadily increase.
Okay, so we'll give them a few more minutes until we get up to the numbers. Anyway, what was the last count you had? 500 odd, was it?
There was 500 registered, some had deregistered, so just under 500.
Okay, so we'll let it clock up there and see who's enjoying the sun or not. There we go. I picked the hottest day of the year anyway for this, didn't I?
Yeah, I know what I'd be doing now if I wasn't here.
It's not too late.
Yeah, we'll give it another minute or so. There's a few of them clocking up there.
Right, I'll get rid of my camera, so I'll speak to you later.
All right, thanks, Michael. Thank you.
Thanks.
If it hits 300, we kick off then. All right, we'll kick ahead, lads, will we? You all happy? All ready?
Yep.
Okay, good evening, everyone. You're very welcome to tonight's webinar, our kicking session on tactical and technical point of view. So we have a couple of experts on the end of the line this evening. One of them is Richie Murphy, the kicking coach with Ireland, and he's kindly agreed tonight to spend the next hour with us to give us his experience over the last few years with the Irish team and underage rugby, and he's worked in Leinster before as well as an elite player development officer and many different guises as well. He's played alongside myself and Damien and Simon, and Damien is in the background as well, and he's going to work on the questions as we go through them this evening as well. And Simon is going to jump in every now and again and give his opinion on some of the content that Richie's delivering. So I'm delighted to see we have at least 300 participants, and they're still clocking up there. So we'll kick off now with Richie, and we'll jump in every now and again with a couple of questions as we see fit. Could I just ask people to use the Q&A section, please, and not the chat section? Okay, thank you. All right, Richie, you can take over there.
Okay, cheers, Dak. Look, it's nice to be here. I'm sure everyone sees what a nice day it is out there. So thanks for giving up the time. Hopefully, over the next hour or so, you'll get something out of this. But obviously today, as Decky was saying, we want to try and concentrate in and around the kicking game. I'm going to try and share my screen here. And I'm just going to check. That's okay, lads? You can see that, yeah? Deck?
Yeah, we're going.
Yeah, see it perfectly.
Okay, so just to start off and get you guys thinking about things, just 3 very, very quick questions I want to ask. One is, as a coach, how important is the kicking game to your overall team performance? If you have a think about that for a minute, it'll give you an idea whether you're on the right track, because today we're going to try and build that importance in and show you how kicking is part of team attack. Do you encourage kicking in your training sessions? I've been at plenty of sessions over the years and seen guys saying, well, we're actually only going to play, we want to play through the hands here, but we're actually taking out an element of the game and an element of attack. We were able to go, obviously, through teams, around teams, and over the top of teams. And going over the top of teams includes, obviously, your kicking game. Some people might think kicking is negative. Hopefully, over the course of the next hour, when we have a look through, hopefully we'll see that that's actually can be a positive as well. And it's a big part of the game, especially the modern game now. Okay, so why is kicking so important? The statement there, kicking has a massive influence on who wins matches. And this is a proven fact now. You know, if you look at in the international game, the teams that kick the most are teams that tend to win. In a large majority of the games, the team that kicks the most wins the match. And that's not even taking into account whether their kicking is accurate or good. It's actually the volume, and obviously it helps them control field position and pressurize the opposition through locking them down their end. And obviously the quality of your kicking game is how you do that. It conserves energy at our end. So what do I mean by that? Well, I suppose we could play 5-6 rucks. We could play a set piece. We could play 3 or 4 rucks in order to get a kick set up, and then get into our kick chase. Well, if you're doing 4 or 5 of them a game, well, you're obviously using up a hell of a lot of energy at your end. So being nice and clean in relation to getting your setup right, and getting yourself out with a good kick on the back of a good chase line will hopefully come out with a good outcome. Okay, who's involved in that kicking game? And there's the answer. It's everybody. Everybody's involved. Whether it's attack or defense, the kicking game is linked to both of them, and it can't be looked at in isolation. So as we talked about kick attack earlier on, but kick attack may transition into defense, into kick chase, and pressure on the opposition over the next few phases, and how you get the ball back in a better position than you were before the kick. How do we do it? Kicking has to become an integral part of team attack, and we talked about that just a minute ago. Okay, it's our ability to recognize space in the backfield, through the line, or around the outside of the line. So it's still very much a team attack philosophy of playing to the space. It's about good communication, and communication isn't always talking or isn't always shouting in. It might actually be pointing at the space. It might actually, you know what I mean? So there's something. It's a way of communicating with your players and showing them where the space is that you're looking for them to go to. The decision making of the kicker himself, the player in possession, whether to go to that space that has been seen by someone else or himself, and then can we execute? So if we see the space, if we get the communication in and we make the right decision, well, can we execute the technical side of the kick in order to get a good outcome? And today, this is what we're going to be having a look at, that technical element, and trying to show you how that fits into the next thing, which is going to be coming up now in a second. Okay, don't get bored doing the right thing. If they're giving you space in the backfield and you take it once and you get a good outcome and they don't change, well, take it again. You know what I mean? So you always want to see how the opposition are going to react to whatever you throw at them. So if you decide that they're playing one in the backfield and you can kick into let's say the right corner all day, you do it once and you get the ball bouncing out into touch, they don't change, well, why not do it again? Do it until they change, and when they change, then you go to a different thing. So it keeps the defenders guessing all the time. What options do we have? So if we are going to kick, it's based around 5 principles. We either kick to score, we kick to relieve pressure, relieve or apply pressure. We kick to gain territory, and you'll find that most of these will mix in with each other. We kick to regather possession in a better position than we are previously. We kick to target or challenge players or systems that we're playing against. So they're the reasons why we do what we do when it comes to our kicking game. The guys asked me today, they asked me to talk in and around these areas. So the core skills of kicking is obviously the punt, high ball, grubber, chip, and box kick. They're performed in two different ways. They're performed static, so a guy receiving a ball and then trying to generate, or a guy on the run. And there's slightly different kicks, slightly different kicks, whether you're dead static or whether you're up and running and moving. And we'll try and show you some of those examples as I go through. Okay, if we look at the punt, we can see that it's around clearance kicking, and it's around kick pass opportunities. High balls is obviously a clearance kick, and it's also an attacking opportunity. Grubber and chip kick looking more on the attacking side of the game. And 9 specialist box kick can be used in both areas. I'm going to show you the next clip, and then what we're going to do is we're going to break out and go into have a look a little bit at some video footage. But the next clip, obviously the 5 reasons why. So the next clip is going to be just how we build, or the key factors that we would use when we're trying to develop a straight on drop punt. Okay, so you can see the picture of Andrew there. He's caught the ball on the run, and he's just trying to play down the tram lines. Okay, so key factor analysis is actually very, very important for a coaching point of view. So to give you an example, facing your target, slightly promote your left side, staying tall with the ball in 2 hands, outside the knee, around hip height. Start building the momentum into the strike with small steps, while staying tall, on ball release, flex the foot in order to make good contact with the ball. Follow through then along the target line. I think if you were out on the pitch and you were trying to coach your player and you gave him all that information, I don't think he would actually remember very much of it. So it's really important that we try and abbreviate these down and make them really relevant to the player that we're trying to coach. Just there is roughly a ball position that we'd look for on the punt. If you can imagine you were coming from left to right as you look at it, ball pointing away, should be able to see the 4 panels on the top of the ball. So the joinings of the 4 panels, if you can't see the joining of the 4 panels, you'll probably find that the ball is too far away from you. It's leaning too far forward. The coaching cues that I would use mainly with the players that I would work with are here's some examples. You would never use them all, and maybe just 1 or 2 things. So if a player, for instance, was struggling with his strike, it could be a case that you're talking to him about on the laces. And if you're talking about something like a strike, there's also a feeling part to it and a sound part to it that are really important. So on the laces, how did that feel? What was the sound like? You know what I mean? So obviously when we're kicking a drop punt, we're looking for a dull thud rather than a slap. The feeling should be a nice solid contact on the top of the laces. So you're actually directing the player towards the things that we want him to feel here as we go. You know, a follow through could be simple as down the line or follow along. So they're all the basic coaching cues that we would use for drop punt. What we will do is at the end of this today is we will send you on the other ones. I'm not going to read through each one of these because we're going to try and introduce these through video as we go. But again, side on drop punt is where you've turned to open up your body. A lot of people will do this when they're trying to kick longer distances. Whether it's some people find this an easier kick rather than straight on. You know, the box kick, you know, the key factors again, and so on, coaching cues, chip kick, what we look at, coaching cues, and the grubber. So they're the kicks that we're going to look at. I think I'll just give I'll give this back to Decky for a minute. That's just my introduction. I'm going to go in and get some video here and we'll get started then. Deck.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. For you guys to post some questions if you feel you have any that you want to ask Richie as he's just changing over his screen there. You can put them into the Q&A if needs be. Any questions at all, fire ahead and we'll answer them throughout and at the end as well, please. Okay, Rich.
Okay, you can see that, Deck, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So as we were saying, we want to just try and have a look through and see what it looks like, see what some of those things look like, and again, just trying to relate these kicks to the principles of kicking. So the first up is kick to score. So here we have Dan Bigger. We can see there, and I know it's only a small picture of him, but he's nice and tall, long and strong in the upper body. Ball drop is pretty good. Contact point is very much on the laces, and it's a follow along to the target. And everything there is working down along the target line to give a really good opportunity to his winger. that kick would also very much link in with the other principle of kicking to target an opposition. Here we've another one, slightly different picture. We'll see as it opens up. So what are we looking for? Okay, so we have Emil Ntamack here, and this was last year in the Six Nations when it was his first, I think it was his first or second game in the Six Nations, probably second game. You can see there's no one in the Scottish backfield. We've Kinghorn here on the wing, who's standing more or less square facing forward. He doesn't really have a threat because the French outside player hasn't really flattened up to threaten that outside. So his positioning isn't very good. He takes one step forward, and Ntamack manages to find the space in between them, which is very clever. And the one thing that I really like about Ntamack is his ability to see the options and see the space in the backfield. Here we have another picture, and if we watch him as he goes, you can see that he's scanning to see what's true in the backfield. We can see the Italian fullback who's playing over here. He's way out of position. They don't have anyone else in the backfield. If you're in that situation, normally what would happen is the fullback or the last defender will come in and play in behind the ball. So if the ball is in the ruck there, he'd be in behind the ruck. He might then just try and follow 10 either side as the ball is released. Ntamack has seen that's not there. He's got a call into his forward. You can see the communication. One of the hardest things to defend as a defensive team is an attack formation that forms on the run. And you can see here down in the bottom corner, we have Teddy Tomac coming back out to the edge. Look where his eyes are. He's looking up to see where the space is. And as he gets the ball, you can see he's pointing to the space. I think Ntamack didn't need the help on this occasion and treads the ball through and wins the race into the corner. So again, kick the score. Another one of them. Okay, the other thing that I just like to talk to you a little bit about, we talk about the grubber, okay, and we look at it from a technical point of view. The idea of the grubber, we want to try and get that ball as close to our foot as possible. So we're trying to press it and trying to get the ball almost below the short line, definitely below the hip, so that it's not traveling too far and we can get it through the space nice and quickly. So what we have here is an inside of the foot contact. Later on, I'll show you an outside of the foot contact. So grubber kicks, some of us will think it's just the same thing. Well, there's actually 3 or 4 different types, depending on where you want the ball to go. Here, Bowden Barrett takes the ball to the line. It's not good enough just to be able to play it off your good foot. So his weaker foot is his left, and it plays into that space. So that's a look at the sort of the kick to score. Kick to regather can happen from both ends. We're looking here at an exit kick. Goes high against South Africa. It gives his wing a great chance of getting into the contest. The other thing is the length of the kick is pretty good. Sort of 20, 25 meters. Gives his winger a great opportunity to get past the initial line in the defense and get up into the contest. That looks different against Ireland, and it's just a little lift over the top. And again, we look at it from a technical point of view. There's no movement in the upper body. It's nice. It's long and strong. The ball drop is pretty good. Contact point on the foot, and the kicking leg back into his running stride as soon as he can. So he's able to attack that space. Here's an oldie, Dan Carter, and there's the one that we were talking about. So we've had 2 off the instep. Now we're getting 1 off the outside of the foot. And again, a little bit of animation in relation to he's moving his hands in order to try and disguise the late drop onto the foot and push through with the outside of the foot. Third principle, kick to gain territory. We see here the South Africans kicking long, and apologies that a lot of these kicks are Bowden Barrett, but when after the lads had asked me to do this, one of my hard drives, which has a lot of my kicking my kick coaching folders, is actually in the office, which I can't get my hands on. We see here, ball's transferred. Sorry. To Bowden Barrett. Okay, we see if you look at his eyes, he's initially catching the ball, he's looking straight up for the space. And what we'd call this is almost a straight on drop punt, where he just turns, the ball's just outside the knee, left shoulder's forward, strikes on the run and gets onto that kicking leg. So if you look, the contact, the next foot that goes onto the ground is his kicking leg to allow him to get into his stride and also help him neutralize that upper body. This one here, we see what's happening. Entimac gets hit a little bit late and then nothing happens within the game. The ball is kicked long. I just want you to watch the English players as they come back. So we can see Entimac in the backfield, down injured. England players are there. They're having a look in behind. We can see George Ford now pointing back into that left corner. If we watch Teddy Thomas, he kind of wanders back, but doesn't actually tell the 15 to go. And obviously the Entimac is down in the backfield. He changes his mind, gets the ball, and it's an easily executed kick into the corner to give good relief and a good use of playing on the top of the French player being injured. We shift the ball a couple of times to try and get out. This is off a turnover, so that ball is turned over at the breakdown. And again, rather than having rucks at our end, we want to try and transfer the ball and get the ball down the other end of the park as quick as we can. And if we look at that from a technical point of view, you can see Andrew Conway, slight turn out of the body. There's the ball position. It might even be slightly too far, too pointed, but I reckon you can definitely see the first two panels. Whether you can see the outside two panels, I'm not quite sure. Good contact point on a flex foot or a hard foot through the ball. And again, into that into that running style straight away to get that ball into the space. Got 3 more clips, guys, and then we'll take a little break and try and get some questions. Again, ball transferred to the end, kick to apply pressure. Ball drop in the control, off the foot, ball into the space behind. One from last year. Johnny takes the ball nice and flat. We can see that picture that we were talking about a few minutes ago with one in the backfield tending to be in behind the ball. We'll see Colby here on the outside, and he's playing very high. There he is there. His body shape is open. He's trying to, basically, the winger stands there with his body shape open. He's trying to tell the 10 that, yeah, I have the attack, but I also have the defense. But there's no way he's ever going to get back to this ball. And the whole idea there would be that ball trying to stay in play. So we're trying to aim for the 5s, so that if Toulouse do pick the ball up, well, there's only one place they can go. Last 2 clips, I think. Just want you to have a look at this picture. Now we're looking at trying to exploit the defensive system that a team are playing against us. So if we look there, what do we see? Well, we see a lot of space out here. And Ireland, this is Ireland, actually a training session, Ireland against Ulster just before the lockdown. A lot of spacing out here. Look like we're setting up for the box kick. And what I'll do is I'll just flick that around just so you can see what happens. You can see Johnny actually comes late into the space. Kicks to the edge. Keith Earls plays down the touchline. Makes the tackle, and the first 2 players there are Irish players. So if we look at where the cursor is, with a ruck here, which was probably going to be a contestable box kick here. Whether we'll win that or not, we're not quite sure. But if we can play to the space, because that's what they've given us, and then get another kick in behind, what's actually happening in a real game is probably a penalty to us in this position here, which is obviously a really good outcome from us. This one's again off the turnover. And you can see there's a big responsibility on the players getting their head up and seeing where the space is. What I love about this is obviously Bowden Barrett's right-footed. He plays it off. He's got the confidence and he's done the work that he's able to play it off his left. The other thing is that the other members of the team, if you look, where is he pointing? He's pointing into the corner. And Wasaki Naholo is on the edge, and he's easily into the stride and runs over the score. Last one. If we look out here, we've got Dave Shanahan on the wing. He's a very, very good scrum half, but we've got a 6'4" guy here on the wing in Jack O'Donoghue against a 5'6", maybe even 5'5". He's a bit like myself. He lies about his height. Gets easily beaten in the air, and we can play from a different position. I'm not saying that is a really good kick. What we would probably prefer if that kick was a little bit further up the pitch to try and get us into it. But we've spotted a weakness in their system or one of their players, and we've tried to attack it, which is exactly what we're trying to do. Last one, and it's a similar picture. We've got a winger. We've got actually, so this is Bowden Barrett. So the other Barrett's on the edge, and we've got a player isolated in the backfield on his own. We get a pinpoint kick. We get up into the contest and win the ball pretty easily. I'm going to come back out of that for a minute, lads.
Thanks, Richie. Damien, do you want to field some questions that are coming in, please?
Yeah, we've a good lot of questions coming in already, Richie, and thanks very much for everything you've done there so far. It's top notch, brilliant. I suppose one of the questions that's kind of coming in is in relation to kind of the spiral kick, and relation to, you know, is it gone from the game, do you feel, or is it still a part of the game, and are players still actively encouraged to train it and to use it if they see fit? And also then another question that's going to come in is in relation to the kind of the transference of skills from other sports like the GAA football, Aussie rules, soccer, etc., and just how that fits in your psyche.
Yeah, I suppose just on the spiral still has a place in the game. There's only a very few players who are using it at the moment. Why? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is, you know, going back a good few years ago, the drop punt came in as a way of training kickers how to kick straight through the ball. And what happened over a period of time is it just actually took over from the spiral. And the spiral kick is seen to be not as consistent as a drop punt. But if you talk to any fullback, they will say that they would much prefer to see an out half spiral the ball, or punt the ball to him rather than spiral. So it still definitely has a part to play, or place to play in the game. I suppose what we have to try and do is, like, you know, for instance, Johnny Sexton would be a guy who spiraled the ball when he was young, and then when he came into Ireland at first and into Leinster at first, it was always part of his game. He does go for one every now and again, but it's probably not as regularly as he'd like or we'd like. The players do work on it, and so it's mainly the 10s. Even though Jacob Stockdale would fancy a crack at one every now and again. But what we try to do is work on them in training, and then when we feel that the kick is solid under the training pressure, we try to introduce it to a game. One of the problems that happened with it going back a few years ago was an introduction of a different ball into the Pro 12, and the guys just felt that the sweet spot on it wasn't as big or as easy to get spiral on it as other balls, and that just put them off it. So I do think it will come back in a form, but it's definitely not there as much as you'd like it to be.
I suppose it's up to the coaches to bring it back as well and coach their players.
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely. And the thing about it is that it's not that different. If you look at, like, I could easily throw up a spiral key factors and some points. Maybe we'll do that after this. But the drop punt and the spiral isn't that dissimilar.
And in relation then to the kind of that transference of technique from other sports, have you noticed any trends there or anything that comes to mind?
Kicking, I do believe there's a couple of things. Obviously, Gaelic footballers it's fantastic to see them coming into the game with their aerial skills, and they also have a feeling about space. The one thing that Gaelic footballers struggle a little bit with, I'm not saying they're not good kickers, but technically they kick the ball very differently than rugby players. So trying to tighten them up, maybe get them on a straight on drop punt will be very alien to them. They will be more used to kicking around the corner. And also foot positions they use in Gaelic will be slightly different than we would. We would always talk about using a hard foot or a flex foot. So if you could think of my hand being a foot and the ball is here, we're always trying to extend those toes nice and long so that we get contact on the laces. Where even if you think of a Gaelic free taker, he actually uses his foot kind of in a different way. He wraps his foot around the ball and kicks around in order to bring the ball back. So it is slightly different, but they do have a good skill set. I like soccer players playing rugby, mainly for backs. Decky, you'd be glad to know. Decky's idea of kicking is kicking someone in the head back in my day. But that's going back a long time. But soccer players, I do believe, have a better vision of this stuff that we're talking about. I think guys who play rugby all their life understand, the space through and the space around, and they see that space really well. I do think soccer players get a better idea of the space, the three-dimensional space, the space that's in behind the line.
Brilliant.
And just one other question. I see Simon's answer. He's put up the principles for people there as well. But there's a question from a nine's perspective, Richie. So my 9 has a good contact on the ball and great height on the ball. However, each time he does not get the best distance on a box kick. How would you approach this, as I'm unsure, and how to help improve that?
What I'll do is I have one more video to actually show you guys, and it's a breakdown of some of the skills that we've seen, and it's a couple of young lads doing them. So what I'll do is I'll talk about that when we get to that video. The one thing that I would say is, and it's probably a question back to the coach, is what's the right distance? You know what I mean? So if you think about it, some people will, if we ask that question and we ask people to fire in some answers, I would say we'd get anything from 20 meters to 40 meters. You know what I mean? So I think in relation to 9's box kicking, all right, and the way we're sort of going at it, we want to try and get the 9 to kick into the space. Now the space might be in 3 different areas. The space might be long, which is a different kick. The space might be a contestable, which I would call a contestable. I would sort of say 20 to 25 meters as being a contestable. So we'd always tell our 9s to try and kick at 22 meters. So if it's 2 meters long or 2 meters short, we're still going to be able to get into the contest. But there is a lot of space starting to come on the rugby pitch where people are playing two very determined lines. They're playing a deep backfield and they're playing a hard front line, but they're not connected. So the front line is coming forward and the back line, the corners or the backfield, the fence stay where they are. So that actual space in between the two lines gets really big. So a lot of space in there. So, even, a 10 meter or a 15 meter kick into that space might actually give you win the ball back without any contest.
Okay. Push on, Simon. If you feel free the next time if you want to jump in with some questions. We can't answer them all, obviously, and I know Richie can't give away the secret sauce of the national team either, so just got to be careful.
I just want to ask Richie a quick question. One of your earlier slides, you mentioned everyone's responsible for the kicking game. What would be some key aspects that you would try and encourage for the rest of the team to ensure that your kicking game is efficient or important or can have value?
It's understanding. I think when it comes down to the tactical side of the kicking, it comes down to the whole team understanding, well, actually, we're in a position now that we either, because of what the defense have given us, we need to kick, or for what's happened to our team, as in we've been put under a lot of pressure. We're inside our own 22, and we need to get rid of the ball. So just recognition from the players on what the actual situation is at that particular time, I think, is really important. In relation to the communication side of it, and that's one of the big things, is that, you know, people that are playing outside of the inside backs, like nines, tend to spend most of their time going ruck to ruck, and they need to focus in on where the ball is. So as they're arriving to breakdowns, they're looking to see if there's stuff, but it's actually quite hard for them to see what's in the backfield. 10's concentrating on the 9. He's also listening to what the guys have to say, and the guys outside of that are the guys who can see if there's space probably in the backfield. So wings and centers being able to communicate in, or back rowers who are playing in the wider channel. You know what I mean? There's no reason why this your kicking game is only backs. The people who read the game well need to get their heads up and see where the space is. By all means, I'm not saying that everybody should be kicking the ball, but everyone has a part to play, because if that ball is kicked, well, we have to transition very quickly into our kick chase, and players then obviously have a new role within the team, whether it's be to get connected and get into the chase line.
Very good.
Okay, well, just to give you an idea of we obviously looked at the principles there of those kicks that we were looking at. So what I'll try and do is I'll try and give you an example of some of those kicks, and I'll also try and show you a little game that we play in order to try and sort of take the kicking skills side to it and put it under a bit of match pressure. So here I'm going to show you, hopefully. Got that, lads? Yeah. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah, it's all there. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So here I'm gonna just show you a couple of different kicks, and there's no reason why a young lad who's on his own can't go out and do some of this work, or you as a coach can't direct him to what he needs to be doing. So in this particular occasion, what we're looking at is a drop punt. The camera is more or less where he's kicking over. So this is kind of a side-on drop punt. And when I talk about side-on, I'm really talking about a 45-degree angle, roughly, of approach to the target. All right. So one of the cues here would be, could be, you know, target in mind. Because you can see, I'll just play this. You can see how Jack is concentrating on the target here. Very much trying to fix in on a point. This could be a penalty line kick, but it also could be a quicker version of the space in the corner. He looks up, sees the space, and then sets himself accordingly. So he comes back, he's on that 45. He builds into the ball with small steps. Ball presentation is B2B. So what I mean by B2B is belly button to ball, all right? So we want that all out in front at a comfortable distance in order to allow him kick through the ball. We look there on contact, we've got a flex foot, we've got a reasonably tall upper body, and we've a follow along down the target line. So if you think about what we discussed earlier, all those key factors, that could easily be shortened down into a couple of key phrases. So here we have the same kick. So we can see he's trying to put the ball through the post, practicing a little bit of a line kicking. So you can see here, ball drop, pretty good. Contact point, good. And again, following along, down along the line, and the outcome is pretty good. It's slightly left of where he would like to. So if I was going to correct that, I'd probably try and get him to just stay a little bit stronger on the left side. I'd say. So different kick here. He's trying to go drop punt down the line. Okay, he's on a tight angle. Okay, we can see the ball transfer on this kick. One of the key elements is that we get the ball outside the knee. The ball doesn't look to be quite outside. It looks slightly on the inside. And if you watch this left shoulder, it starts coming back on contact. You can see the hips rotating around, and that's why the kick has missed on that inside line. So again, a correction for Jack will be, come on, Jack, get the ball outside. You know, it also could be target at 12, body at 1. So what I mean is, if you're thinking of a clock face, the target is 12 o'clock. So he can readjust his body to 1 o'clock, and that will give him his left shoulder lead on that. And you see the ball drop falling slightly in. So that's a drill that could be used as a correction drill, or it can also be used as a drill to work on your line kicking. So if you're standing on a touch line and you've got maybe 3 or 4 balls or 5 balls, and you go 5 meters out, 10 meters out, 15 meters out, 20 meters out, and you try and put the ball through the posts, well, you'll have got a 35-meter touch kick. So if you're standing inside your 22, you're now got a line out past in the other half. And I think most of the coaches will be happy with that. Okay, this one, what we're doing is looking at a little bit of a kick pass drill. So kick pass is another version of the straight on drop punt. On this occasion, what we're trying to do is get Jack to hit the red post pad on the outside. All right. So you could easily have yellow, red, and maybe even set up another cone further out or another cone further out that he's able to try and aim at. The method here is try and go to the target, upper body long and strong, contact point on the laces. So he turns to the target, ball transfers to more or less straight in front, and we really want that outside the knee. We get a decent strike, ball flight is pretty good, and we get a decent outcome in relation to the kick. So again, that would be a kick trying to exploit the defensive system or the defensive positioning of players, where you're trying to get the ball to the edge as quick as you can. We saw a lot of little chip kicks and grubber kicks and kick pass to the edge in the previous video. So on this occasion, what we have is 4 balls. Jack sort of maybe 15 meters out off the try line. And what we're trying to do is stop the ball in the field of play or just over the try line. This one, he's playing laterally across the pitch, but he's looking to try and go to the chip. Chip is a bit heavy and the ball goes a little bit too deep into the in goal. So trying to get him to pop it on his laces a little bit, trying to lift his foot rather than hitting out through it, trying to lift it over the thing. A high Gaelic football solo is a great idea for a chip kick. If you think of Bowden Barrett's one that he had in the previous video, that's kind of what we've seen. We've got a kick pass, lands on the try line, about 5 meters in off the touch line, exactly what we're looking for. Going across, playing the grubber, a little bit heavy, runs through, but if someone was on the edge and they were coming at that, they should have a great opportunity to maybe score there. A little bit of skies, showing the ball as if we're going to play across. It just plays off the instep. Again, trying to drop the height of the ball below the short line before the release and pushing the ball through the space. If you can do it on the right side, well, you need to be able to do it on the left as well. So left-footed kick pass to the edge, left-footed grubber, and again, decent weight on that, just going towards the corner. And last one, left-footed grubber on a different line, and just a little bit heavy. So they're obviously drills that could be used for 10s, back 3, centers, any of those guys. Is there anything coming up on that side? Is there anything you want to have a look at there?
I think we're in the technical aspects of the kick. Just a couple of the questions coming in, just mainly around how you can encourage kicking through the game. or
Yeah.
through training, to give the kickers or the people that are communicating to the kickers an opportunity. So it's just looking for examples around that.
Okay, well, I'll show you on the next one. I'll show you that there's a game that we're going to play, and we've already seen some footage from training where when we get into those training games that we're actually trying to play proper rugby, which is obviously a three-dimensional attack. So we've seen Johnny's kick pass from his own 22 to Keith Arrows on the edge, who decided to go back down in behind them, and they're the perfect examples when we're playing, when the game is playing. But if you as a coach tell the players that, well, we run, we pass, we ruck, we run, we pass, we ruck, that's what the lads will do. You know what I mean? So if you say, did you not see that? Who's seen the space? Where's the space? Is the space back there in the backfield? If you don't start highlighting that to them, well, then the players won't see it and they won't actually do it in training sessions. I'm just going to look at this one.
Just on the last one, Richie, as an exercise, would you be calling out to Jack there, chip, grubber, or crossfield just really late so he reacts and adapts to the type of kick?
Yeah, you definitely could. Like, that's just a drill. To tell you the truth, there's a couple of our internationals that are doing that exact same drill at the moment. And they're just trying to, and it looks so simple, but it's actually quite difficult to do because you're only 15 meters out off the try line. To try and get the ball to stay in the field of play or just barely cross the try line is actually very difficult, and it takes a lot of control. So yeah, you can call out, or what he's trying to do is obviously bounce the ball to imagine that there's a pass or there's a receiver possession. What we don't have here is obviously the pressure of the outside coming forward, or where he would have to tread the ball through the space. So you could easily stick, two cones here and here to go through that way, two cones here and here, or a cone on the edge just to give him a target. But I think this was Monday or Tuesday when we done this, and we just really wanted to try and just capture a little bit of footage just to show the people what they could do, But yeah, definitely from a coaching point of view, you can definitely call out whatever you want to them. And the other thing is you can even change feet. So like if just because he's coming this way doesn't mean he has to use his left foot. So he should be using his right foot, left foot, the other side, right foot, left foot, left foot grubber, right foot kick pass. You know what I mean? So you're trying to make him react, I suppose, and put him under some sort of pressure.
Okay.
I'll go forward here and just go into the last thing, because we haven't really looked at the box kick, and I should have actually put some box kicks into probably the kick to regather phase, and it was my mistake actually. I just left it out, so sorry about that. So there's a lot of talk about the technique in and around the box kick, and there's key factors and coaching cues in the stuff that I've already done, which will go out to you guys, and you'll be able to have a look at it. But I thought the best way to try and do it is to have a look at a scrum half. So this view here is a very good view to see a scrum half from, because you can see a lot of the movements. Okay, so here we have foot on the ball. So if we can imagine that there's a ruck built over this in this area, and he has to drag the ball back to the edge. Sorry, just bear with me. So from here, a left foot, he's obviously a right-footed player. Left foot nice and close to the ball. He can touch the ball, but you can't lift the ball off the ground. So once his hands are on the ball and the ball is still on the ground, the ball is technically still in a ruck as long as there's a foot over it. The right foot, some people will start with their feet in here, and then they'll go right foot out, left foot out. For me, it's let's get the first bit done as quick as possible. So you get your right foot out, and again, you're trying to think about the alignment of where you want the box kick to go to. So the target at this particular time is very much in the player's mind of the target of where he wants to kick it, because this next foot has to go down in a position that allows him keep his upper body reasonably tall to get the ball back into that area. So on takeaway, you can see the transition from that low position into a nice tall, long through the back, and nice tall, straight ball drop, which is also straight. It's a B2B as well. It's a button to ball, straight out in front of him. It's not out here at his back leg where the only way he can get it back into that corner is to lean back. And he kicks up through the ball. So I'm going to let that play. Okay. One of the things that this player is working on is to try and get this bit here out of it. So that little crunch at the end, it's not that important because the ball is already gone, but if we can keep him longer through the kick in the upper body, it just eliminates any problems that he might have. You can see a small rotation around towards the target with his hips finishing slightly upfield. If his hips finish parallel to the touchline, that's great. If this player obviously after the kick will slightly rotate. Same player, same body position, foot, 2 feet, foot more or less in line with the target, which is 22 meters away. Again, good view of the placement. Ball release, ball stays really still on the drop. Probably would like him to come a little bit further. So if you can imagine a saying of nose over toes, all right? So what we'd like him to be is a little bit more forward. One thing I would say is that kicking to the right touch line for a left footer is actually quite difficult from a box kick situation. And the tendency would be to find a position of that where you're slightly leaning back. Strike is up through and over, up through towards the left shoulder. He's up through the ball and the outcome is pretty good. So that's the two, that's obviously some drills easily for the nines. You know, how far is a good kick? For me, it's about 22 meters. If it goes a little bit further, a little bit shorter, it's okay. What are we looking for? In an ideal world, we'd probably have a 4-second hang time so that we can get into the contest. The other stuff is obviously a couple of little drills that we can do in and around 10s, 12s, and maybe even back 3. Damien, anything?
Yeah, no, Richie, you've hit on a lot of the points and a lot of the questions that are coming in around kind of those kind of technical aspects of the different type of kick, and especially how you can actually bring it to life, whether for youth coaches, for youth players, up to adult level as well. So you've shown some really good examples there of how both players and coaches can integrate that into their training. I suppose I think I know the answer to the first question I'm going to ask you, but it's come in there. What would you say to coaches who tell the 10 not to kick the ball?
I tell them they're missing out on a massive part of their team attack.
There you go, good man. I had a feeling that might be the answer.
And my other thing is that he shouldn't only be talking to his 10 when it comes to kicking. If you think of the teams that are out there at the moment, you maybe even look at England, who have the ability from 10 and 12 to kick with Ford and Farrell. Slade sometimes plays in the centre, is obviously a left footer, and Elliot Daly playing either on the wing or a fullback. They're 4 probably world-class kickers of the ball, which makes them a very difficult team to play because obviously they'll throw in a couple of really good runners with the ball as well. So their ability to kick, their ability to play through you, their ability to play around you is really good, and it makes it very difficult from a defending point of view.
Brilliant. No, that's great. And I know you've touched on a lot of the key factors there, and also I know you're going to come to, you've shown some little activities, and you're going to come to some game-based training there, which is another question that's coming up. So for the people logging on to be able to see it brought to life in training. But I suppose twofold question here, if you don't mind. For a coach of, and you've seen a lot of underage rugby in club and school around the country and in Leinster and etc. if you were a coach of an under 14, under 15 player, and the players pick up a rugby ball for the first time, what were the three main things you would maybe say to a coach to help the player kind of get their first real experience of kicking a ball?
Well, the first thing I suppose is, like, you know what I mean? It's chicken and egg, really, isn't it? Because like, in order to be able to execute in a game, you have to be able to do the skill. But there's no point in being able to do the skill if you can't see where the space is. So at that young age, I think if you could try and introduce the principle of kicking to, you know, to relieve pressure or apply pressure, you know what I mean, through, you know, getting out of your end or finding a little corner that you can actually play the ball into. And, you know, from a coaching point of view, if they can start recognizing that and they can't execute the skill, well, it's up to you to teach him how to do the skill. And it's also up to him to go and do, him or her, to go away and do the work in relation to being able to nail it the next time. But so it's a twofold thing. It's one is getting them used to seeing the space. Two is obviously giving them the technical assistance and give them an opportunity in training to be able to execute that kick. And then when they're at home and they're on their own, you know, they need to be able to go get a ball or two balls and go and do their little bit of work in their kicking game.
And if you were to say, right, there's a ball, show me how to kick, what would the first three things that would come to mind just for that youth player? Like,
well, the most important thing, if you go back into the key factors, you go into coaching cues, one would be ball drop. You know what I mean?
Ball drop.
What position should the ball be in as we're dropping it? And the second thing would be is contact point on the foot. If they can get those two things right straight away, well, the whole thing becomes very, very easy. You know what I mean? So the coaching cues are there, and maybe we should go back and have a look at one or two of them. That might be something that makes more sense to the guys now that they've actually seen some of the stuff. What I'll do is I'll just show the game.
Yeah, please do.
Very quickly, and then we'll go back to that.
Thanks for that.
Kick counter. Okay, so I just plucked out. You can see that demo, yeah?
Yeah, all there, all good.
Good. Okay, so I picked out a game. Normally we play this game on a bigger pitch, but this was the day the Irish seniors were playing with the Irish 20s, or training with the Irish 20s. So this end of the pitch, the under 20s had the forwards are doing some line outs or some boring stuff like that up there, Decky. And then the backs are having a bit of fun in the middle, and that's usually the way things go. These players here are none and void. They shouldn't actually be on the pitch. I don't actually know what they're doing, and I don't think they know what they're doing on the pitch either. But what we're trying to do is play a game which goes between the 10-meter line and the 22. The try lines are on the 15, okay, and there's kick zones, which is the 15 to the touch line and the 10-meter line to the 22. So that whole area the ball can be kicked into. So there's two ways to score in this game. One is to cross the 10-meter line, the 15-meter line with the ball in your hand. The second way to score is by kicking it into that zone and getting it to bounce twice. So firstly, the very sharp people that are out there will notice that the red team have actually 6 players to start with, and the referee here shouldn't be in a red bib either. And the actual non-bibs only have 4 on this first occasion. And the good thing about this is that the players actually look up and recognize and don't try and kick the ball, because we don't want them to kick the ball if it's on to play. We only want them to kick the ball when it's on to kick the ball. So as we can see, the first pass is made. The defensive line is pretty broken. He plays a little reverse switch and he walks over the line. Again, no need to touch down the ball, just drop it on the ground, tell the lads to go fetch. They decide to play out. So as they're playing out, we can see that this player isn't in the game. All right? And the idea of this game is that they should form some sort of a line, and they should also have some sort of a backfield. And it's up to the attacking team then to be able to either play through the line or kick into the space that's in behind. Here we have a player running up the middle of the park. He ends up in a bit of an alley. And because this game is a one-touch turnover game, he tries to go for the Hail Mary ball and it's intercepted. Luckily for him, it's intercepted. And then he gets touched, which means the ball goes back to the opposition. Because the ball is picked up in the opposition half, the ball comes back over the halfway line in order to be able to start the attack again. If this ball was in here, it would actually have to come back over the try line. So Johnny wants to go. He's told, get back. To go back behind the line, which brings the defensive line forward. You can see here that Billy, this is Billy Burns in the backfield, is just trying to drop off to try and cover the space. Connor sees the space, but actually doesn't execute the kick particularly well. He should be trying to get it in here in order to get the 2 bounces. The ball bounces once and is easily gathered by Billy. He comes back out, sees the space in the opposite corner. The non-Bibs player works really hard to get back into the space, gets it on 1 bounce. So again, no score. So still only 1-0 to the Reds. He goes for a long spiral, and maybe that's why we don't see enough of them at the moment. Contact isn't very good. Billy Burns catches the ball, carries back towards the line, which engages the defenders and gives them the opportunity to play the ball in behind. And that's another point for his team. So the red team scored one point by scoring a try and scored another point by kicking the ball over the defensive line and getting up the bounce twice in the backfield. So that's another game that's another game that can be played, and it's pretty easy to set up. As I say, you can definitely play it full width of the pitch. So if you think about it, we had probably 40 meters to play it in there. Playing full width of the pitch, you'd obviously have 70 meters. What we would do is probably have another couple of players. So we'd probably have 7 aside, with 5 guys playing in between the 22 and the 10 meter line, and then 2 guys in the backfield. Obviously, the backfields in that particular game would be the 2 10 meter lines and the 22. That game I have on. I have an explanation on that game, which we'll send on to you. Are we okay, Damo?
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. I think that really shows the people who are on here now how to bring it to life, and also goes back to then as well to your principles and how like you can marry so many of your principles into that one game. You know.
Definitely, yeah.
Would you encourage coaches to bring forwards into that game?
Not if it's Deck O'Brien.
Well, that's a given.
Gee. Did you ever see me taking drop calls before training, though?
Yeah, look, there's no reason why back rowers couldn't slot in there and play a bit of it. We tend to play it when the forwards are doing the scrums and they're getting hot and sweaty. We tend to play that because it's a bit of fun, and then the backs can have a latte and a chocolate finger as well, like, you know, so nice and easy. Just go back to the question, because it seems the question that you asked me just before we started. So it would seem to be around before I showed that, it seemed to be in and around the key for how do I coach? These pages tell you how to coach.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? The other thing that's really important from a coach's point of view, if you've never kicked the ball before, don't be afraid to tell the guys, well, don't be afraid to try, but try away from your team to learn the skill. But, you know, when you're in training, if you're not capable of doing it, don't be afraid to get somebody who you feel is capable to show them how to do it, show your players how to do it. And
so that's that peer coaching and getting help from your teammates. Yeah.
Exactly. That's, you know, obviously I use the 2 lads to show the example of some of the coaching points. I didn't do it myself because I can box kick and I can punt, but it's more realistic when it's someone of the age of the players that you're going to be coaching is doing it. So again, going back into the coaching side of it is, can you see that, guys? Yeah, are you looking at that? No,
not yet. No.
Sorry.
No.
Yeah, I knew there was always going to be one, so I didn't put it up, wasn't it? So
there you go. That's it.
so if we look at the thing, so we look at the coaching key factors. So that explains the skill in itself. So we look, if you get these pages and you take them out and you sit them down beside you and you look at the particular kicks, you'll be able to say, oh, facing the target. You know what I mean? He's nice and tall. The ball's in two hands. The ball's outside his knee. You know what I mean? Of his kicking leg, and it's around hip height. You know, he's building momentum into the strike. He's taking, you know, with controlled steps. You know, he's staying tall on ball release. He's trying to flex his foot. If you look at Andrew Conway's foot there, it's very much flexed in the flex position, extended as far as it can be. You know, he follows through by going along to the target. So they're the cues, or the abbreviated versions of them. Unfortunately, the screen is covered here for me. Sorry, guys. So there we have. So, you know, target in mind. Like, you know, one thing that really bugs me is that I think a lot of the players spend loads of time worrying about, you know, the contact point on the ball, you know, the drop, but very few of them actually concentrate on getting a good alignment. You know what I mean? If you want to kick the ball into a particular area, you've got to get yourself set up right first. And I know that in the field of play, you don't necessarily have loads of time for that, but it's a really important part and something that they have to get used to from a very early stage. Okay, Demo?
Yeah, no, I think that's hit the nail on the head. And again, as you've kindly said, we'll share all these key factor slides as well out with everyone that wishes to have them. So for those people asking for that more technical detail, it is there. So we'll get that out to you. One quick question before I let Decky or Simon jump in there is in relation to your thoughts on, especially that kind of school and youth level, whereby, you know, kicking may not be encouraged in session, or coaches may be saying to their kids, like, you know, well, you can do your kicking practice at the end, or you do your kicking practice at the start. What are your thoughts about actually having it in game? And obviously you've shown some really good examples, but in training, and the benefits of saying, and the time that actually we should apportion to the skill as well.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a couple of things in that. I know from our point of view, like, you think of an international rugby team, you say, oh, well, they could train all day. The reality of that is very different. The reality is that an international team will do some prep work on a Monday, will probably train fully on a Tuesday, especially if they played an international the week before. They'll do some prep work on a Monday, which will be very light and low key. They'll do a proper training session on a Tuesday. They may have the Wednesday off, or they may train Wednesday and have Thursday off. Probably train Wednesday off, train Thursday fully, but for a shorter period of time. The captains run on a Friday and a play on the Saturday. So realistically, we're talking about 2 pillar days. We're talking about 2 days in the middle of the week where you do most of your work. So players have to, one, take a little bit of ownership and work on their skills around the training sessions, which I totally agree with. But you can't do the tactical side of it on your own. You can do a technical side of it on your own and understand the key factors and the coaching cues and execute on them. But you must give them an opportunity to be able to do that in the game. So, for instance, if your back line were working on back attack and your forwards were doing scrums or lineouts, well, you know, why can't kick attack be part of that attacking strategy? You know what I mean? You might have a very good winger who's very good in the air, or very quick, and you can set up a play in relation to, you know, him, the 10, the 12, exploiting the space on the edge. So it definitely has to be part of both.
Oh, great answer. Thanks very much. Simon, do you have anything there?
Yeah, just got one question that came in, and they're just talking about how to generate more power through the range of the kick, both probably in the age group kind of space, but also in the women's game. So how would you generate more power so that, obviously, I suppose the kick can travel further?
Yeah. It's a difficult thing. There's no doubt it's a difficult thing to do. Like distance comes from, like, definitely comes from strength, but also comes from timing. And being able to use your upper body as a pillar for you, because like if you think of a kick, it's a violent action in the lower part of your body, but your upper part of your body should be tall and strong. So, making sure that we're using our abs to lock down the core upper body so that we have something nice and solid to kick off is really, really important. And trying to improve the range of movements. So, you're talking about maybe going, like a lot of physios will be able to help with that, but a range of movements. So getting the wider the range of movement is through the ball, the more speed you're going to generate, and the further the ball is going to go. It's a very hard one to explain while we're sitting here. So the first thing I would say is work on your core, getting your core nice and tall and strong, and then allowing yourself to release that lower leg through the ball. But you got to remember that in order to kick far doesn't mean you go hard at the ball. But in order to kick far, it means that you build through the ball. So in color terms, if you could think of your jog, and as you're starting, you're probably a yellow color. And as you're getting closer to the ball, you're transferring yellow into orange. And as you're getting close to the strike, then you're at red. And you're at red through the strike, and you're at red into the follow through. So the fastest point is through the ball.
Very good. One further question came in just around the tactical side of the game. Teams are starting to kick, move the ball to the edges and kick. Any idea where that trend came from, or the reasons why?
Well, it's been there a long time. It's about moving the backfield. It's a very useful tool. Like, I can remember when I was coaching back in Leinster, we used to use it quite a lot off a restart. It was around Joe's time back in, I think it was the year that we won the Amlin. I think we actually scored a try from it in the Amlin Cup final, where we caught the ball off a restart on the left touchline. We moved it all the way across, which was a strategy in the game, all the way across to Isa on the left. The fullback then has to come up from the backfield. He kicks long over the fullback's head, and who can get to that ball? It's actually the only other person is the guy who's in the far corner, which was actually the 10, who we knew was quite lazy and didn't cover that space. So we ended up getting back into that space, and so it's been around a long time, and it's about not being predictable in attack, and it's also about moving the defense so that you can get a better outcome.
Recommended practice time frame per week for a youth player, ballpark, by themselves? It's
a difficult one, because it also depends on, I would suggest that all backs should be doing some practice of some sort. I would say 9s and 10s should be doing more than centers, because they've other things to worry about. Back three players is a very important part of the game, especially if you're going to play at an elite level. So, I'd say three little windows outside of your training sessions will be fantastic, and they might be 15 to 20 minutes. But what we want in them is to be purposeful practice. So if you're going to do something, you know exactly what you're trying to achieve, and you're going to do that. So if it's kicking from hand for distance, well, that's what you do. If it's kicking from hand for your short kicking game, well, that's what you do. And you try to give yourself try and grade yourself afterwards and say, well, that was, my grubbers were good, but my kick pass was poor. My left foot grubber was great. My right foot kick pass wasn't good enough. So what do I need to do? How do I need to get better? How do I need to fix that? You know what I mean? And go from there.
Thanks, Rich. Just one more question, and we'll probably let you off the hook then, Richie, because it's been an hour and 15 minutes now. This has come up a good few times tonight. So what do you think about the proposed impact of the 50-22 kicking rule or law when we get back on the field?
Yeah. Hopefully, well, firstly, it's very much a proposed law. There's no real sign of it coming in, as in over in the foreseeable future. I don't think it has as big an impact on the game as people may think. There's in phase play, there's 2 people in those corners anyway, and you don't necessarily need any more than 2 people in the corners to stop them from kicking the ball in general play. I think where it comes in, where it does change is set piece and mainly scrum. Scrum in midfield, it's actually quite easy to get a pass to the left or the right side of the scrum in your own half and kick the ball and bounce it out in the touch in the 22. So that's where I would see the biggest change. And I suppose from a defensive point of view, you're going to have to decide on whether you defend the running play or the kicking play. And I would think people will still try to sort of defend the running side of it first, because there's a skill level obviously of bouncing the ball out. Now the funny thing is that they're doing it to try and open up play, but if we actually bounce the ball out inside the 22, especially in the senior game, what do you think's coming next? It's going to be a maul. So there's actually less open play, in my opinion.
That's the answer I wanted. Thanks very much.
Another maul for Decky.
Look, I think we'll wrap it up there. That was fantastic. Really, really appreciate your time, Richie. Thanks for sharing and openly sharing some of your knowledge and experience. Thank you to Damien, thank you to Simon and to Michael for organising them behind the scenes as well. So look, we'll share the slides, guys, tomorrow, because I want to follow up with the tactical periodization slides as well with people. They'll be all sent out tomorrow. So the 2 blocks of slides will be sent out with the video links as well, hopefully. The video for this might be a few days later. All right, so thanks again, Richie. Thanks to everyone who attended. We had up to about 300 people I can see participants. So I hope we all learned something. Take care and be safe. So thank you.
Cheers,
Thanks,
guys.
Richie. Thanks, everyone else.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Thank you.